Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoia, Josh McCuistion here from the SoonerScoop.com studios on Campus Quarter. Really good time to join SoonerScoop. Brent Venables football camp. That's what we're here today to do. Is Brent Venables football camp is underway. Day one was on Thursday. Day two coming up on Saturday. Really good offensive line, defensive line group. Everything that you need to know. Congratulations to the Oklahoma softball team. Unprecedented fourth consecutive national title on Thursday night up at Devon Park in Oklahoma City. They were just badass. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. We talked about it on radio all morning. It's just, you look at the numbers, what that senior class was able to do. It's like 245 and 15, something like that. Maybe 235 and 15. They lost 15 games. Florida lost 14 games this year.
Yeah, I did something I was looking at because everybody keeps talking about the Oklahoma City thing,
yeah,
the World Series. They're 29-5 in the last 4 years against top 25 teams. Like with the run differential was like 140 or something. It's just insane, their domination.
The casualness of them just being able to say, like, they had more wins the more championships won than losses in the NCAA tournament as a senior class. That's insane.
It's insane, too, that, like, they kind of struggled throughout the year.
Yeah.
I mean, Patty Gasso, I put out that quote.
Yeah, I saw that.
56 days ago, she was like, this is not a national title team. And they just flipped the switch on. And really, that Texas team, I've said this, I think that's the best team they've faced in the national championship the last 4 years. And it was easy almost. Like it was, I mean, I know it was tight last night till about the 6th, but then when it got, cutting time, it was like, all right, like,
we knew who was going to win that game.
Yeah.
You could see it on Texas's face.
Was that the biggest difference for you guys? I thought as the season wore on, especially as we all start paying more attention, they get into the NCAA tournament, that kind of thing. You just saw they seem like they found that ability to get those hits when they needed them.
Yeah.
During the regular season, at times you just see them stranding runners, and then all of a sudden it was like about the Big 12 tournament. It was like, okay, we've got runners in scoring position. Sidney Sanders hits the ball to right center. So, I mean, it was just all of a sudden they were just finding those timely hits that they lacked early in the year.
And I just think that I watched the post-game press conference this morning that's up on Scoop Editorial, and I think Patty said it best is like this group especially just was never afraid to lose. Like they just went out and played and I think that they have a certain something happens when they get in the postseason, like Josh said, where they just don't care.
Well, they're just a bunch of killers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like they are unafraid of anything. And even when they lost to Florida, it was just like they just turned around and said, we're going to win this next one. And that's what's crazy is like they're like a play away from losing to Florida in that second game.
100%.
I mean, the Avery Hodge double.
If Ella Parker doesn't tie the game even.
Right, and then Jada Coleman just barely hits it out. Like it's crazy. But that group, I tweeted out last night, that senior class is the greatest in softball history.
235 and 15 in their entire career at Oklahoma. 114 of the 235 wins were shutouts. 131 were run rules. 0 shutout losses. They never got run ruled. Perhaps maybe the most incredible stat that they threw up during the game on Thursday night, 201 when they win games by 4 runs or more.
It's crazy.
201 and 0. 4 national titles, obviously, and the 940 winning percentage, the best in Division I history. They certainly will be leaving a mark. It's kind of cool, too. I saw that Bob put out from the press conference, Patty announced that T.R.A. Jennings, Kinsey Hansen,
Carly Keeney.
and Carly Keeney all coming back as graduate assistants next year for a team that could be relatively young.
Yeah.
We'll see. I know that there's already rumors out there about Kennedy possibly entering the transfer portal, which would be like if she wants to. I said this morning, if she wants to become like the ultimate super villain in sports, and she comes to Oklahoma.
I mean, Kelly Maxwell was kind of that this last year. I mean,
and she wins, and it is kind of funny too that. On the backside of it, we were having these conversations about like, can you trust Kelly Maxwell in these big major moments? Mm-hmm. She wins 3 consecutive games. Well, she wins to the 2 games to get them to the final. Sorry, I tried to take out your new computer. I'm not used to coordinating 3 people here. And then she gets to it, and obviously the way that she came in the save, I thought like the ESPN shot last night of her like just standing in the gate of the bullpen was like badass.
Yeah.
It almost was like Mariano Rivera vibes.
Oh, and again, being the major league fan that I
Yeah.
am, I wanted like Wild Thing to come on. Like
Would've
I
been
wanted the
awesome.
full effect of her coming in to close that game out.
She's such a badass. Well, needless to say, really good time to join SoonerScoop.com. Really good promo going on for you out there, the YouTube viewer. $1. That's it. That's all you got to do. $1. Just use promo code OU1. Special offer, 2 months of SoonerScoop.com exclusive content for you out there. And we got a bunch going on. It's not too far away that we're going to have to start thinking about SEC Media Days. So that stuff is coming up. Obviously, a couple more weeks of camp.
Yeah.
It got underway on Thursday. There was a trio of offers coming out of yesterday. The AM group, though, the offensive line group, defensive line group was really good, highlighted by Zane Rowe, obviously a 2027 Oklahoma commit. We'll get to him in a second. Let's start with the two new offers, though, Josh.
Yeah.
Chancellor Barclay from Lake Minola, Florida. He was one of the better offensive linemen from a very, very good offensive lineman group.
Yeah, this is a group that, as the day ends, had 4 scholarship offers. We'll talk about the guys that came in with offers. But Chancellor Barclay was a guy that you knew, he came in with a reputation. You kind of expected good things to happen. But, yeah, you can see him here in these clips. Like, this guy and his feet, like, it just – one of those offensive linemen that looked very at ease all day. Like, very few people were able to give him any real trouble. I thought he blended athleticism. He had some strength. And he went inside. Like, he played some guard. Often at camps, you won't see guys really go play guard unless they are just absolutely, 6'2", 290-pound spark plugs. But he is 6'4" and some change. He's a big kid. His dad is an enormous human being.
Huge.
So you wonder if he'll continue to grow a little bit. But I couldn't have been more impressed. I thought of the guys that showed up to camp that didn't have offers. I thought he had the best day of any offensive lineman. And like you said, Eddie, there were 5 or 6 really good ones, that are not part of that group I'm talking about.
It seemed like fundamentally he was one of the better guys there. I mean,
just watch him shuffle there.
And he's in good shape, like you said, 6'4", 280, and he could easily carry probably 30 more pounds if he wanted to. And his dad, his dad is a massive human, so that's what you really like about his potential.
And this clip, and I know why Carrie's rewinding it here, this guy gave some people some trouble, this smaller kid with the bleached hair. And again, we talked about this a little bit last night, there are these guys that you see, and people can look at the guy he's going against and say, well, he's not a Division I prospect. He's probably not. But at the same time, he is a guy that's got some athleticism. He's got some quickness on the edge. You can tell just watching him, he knows what he's doing. He's not, just a kid out there flailing around. So for Barclay to just stay under control, again, he never comes out of his set. George Stoia and Josh McCuistion there in the background looking really handsome.
Looks like George is doing nothing. That's neither here nor there.
George, his notepad, I'm sure, was
My
just
arms
kind of
look good
underneath
in
the
that.
arm.
My arms look good in that video.
That's what you got out of that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I like his footwork, Josh.
Yeah.
You could tell the way that he steps out there on that pass rush. He definitely is fundamentally sound. Because there's a lot of guys that we watch that are like, okay, like they still have a ways to go to learn that. He was not one of them.
2026, right?
That's
2026
correct.
for Chancellor Barclay. Great name, too. That's a great offensive lineman name.
That's a law firm. That's
Chancellor
starting-
Barclay?
Yeah,
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. Or it's somebody that, got hazed severely
Yes.
going through Sig Up Russia at Old Miss.
Is there a chance he doesn't go to Duke? Like, he feels like he has to go to Duke a little bit, right?
He could.
Yeah.
He could, definitely.
Yeah.
Another offensive lineman that was offered a little bit closer to the, region would be Midlothian offensive lineman, 6'3", 290-pound Noah Best.
Yeah.
Thought he had a really good day.
I did too. And what I liked about him is while, with Chancellor, I kind of said, there's some variation. He could move inside, he could move outside. I think Noah Best is a guard. I think that's where he plays. But you watch him here, he doesn't look, he's not, that's not his dream rep, and you can see it there. He's a little frustrated. But again, look at him going against this kid, the big European kid, David Hofkin. That for those that don't know, just picked up a Nebraska offer, has committed to Nebraska in the 2024 class, and I have confirmed is 22 years old.
It's incredible. Like a little bit of a backstory. We'll get to know Best.
Sure.
It's one of those things that's like he was with a moving company, I guess would that be called?
Yeah,
that brings guys around mostly from Germany.
Yes, I think Germany, Holland, or I guess the Netherlands, and Sweden were the 3 that I heard reference. Now, it's called Gridiron Imports, I think is what they were all wearing. Now, it's for those that don't know that one, and I can't say I was overly familiar. PPI that Brandon Collier does that a lot of people do know. That's kind of a similar thing to what you're talking about. But, and again, this is the guy. Started out the day. We'll get back to Noah Best. I don't want to. This is just kind of an interesting story. Started out the day at offensive tackle. There was no interest. I can say I don't think, excuse me, I don't think Bill Bedenbaugh was that intrigued. But he moved over to defensive end, and then all of a sudden you could see just how big and powerful he is, and he's clearly a good athlete, and was clearly just a guy figuring out what he was doing kind of on the fly. But, guys, I don't know about you. I thought he was much more intriguing as defensive end than as an offensive lineman.
When he flipped over, it was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like he's maybe even more so comfortable in, like, knowing what he's doing there.
I'm just thinking, I wonder if we can get Kerry to fund a trip to Germany.
Sooner Scoop does Germany.
I've
awesome.
heard Germany's amazing. So
That's what I've heard, too.
Yeah,
Maybe we should make a trip.
You liked a lot of what Germany was, kind of about, didn't you?
Let's get back to Noah Best.
Talking about the beers. Oktoberfest.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh. All right. Well, Noah Best did get it offer, though, yesterday. I thought he was really good. Like, you start talking about some of the better performance from yesterday. It was Chancellor Barclay, Katoa, who we'll get to in a second. Just an unbelievable body of a human. But Noah Best from Midlothian, Texas.
Yeah, Noah, guy that already held Texas offers. He's still got plans to camp at, I believe he told me, Michigan, Texas A&M, and Missouri, I believe, is still coming up for him. So not a guy that's going to shut it down. But, again, as a guard, I really like his athletic ability. You can tell he's a big-framed guy. Some of these guards you see are a little sawed off. They're a little – he's not that way at all. He's got a big, strong base, but he's not heavy in that way. Again, I see him as a guy, and he looks kind of like an OU offensive lineman. That's kind of what you would think with Bill Bedenbaugh and what we've seen him recruit through the years. That's a guy that makes a lot of sense for OU.
Look at his arms, too, on that. Like, he's really punching and holding his ground. And then, like we said yesterday on the short live stream we did, that he just sits down in his stance. And I think, again, fundamentally really well. So
That's fair. The live stream is something of a legend.
Yeah.
It's something of a legend. Mm-hmm. It might have happened. It might have not have happened. Yeah. I don't know.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely an if you know type of situation. There were a couple of Oklahoma commits that came up and camped. It does feel right. Something I think of right that we're back at Brent Venables football camps and Kevin Sperry has arrived.
Yeah, I mean, guys,
he's now 17 for 17 in sessions.
The crazy thing is the only reason he's not going to be at all 5 this year is he's going to Elite 11.
Oh,
That's
really?
the only thing keeping him out this year.
Unbelievable.
And guys, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but I thought it's the best I've ever seen Kevin Sperry throw the football. Like
it's the best I've ever seen him throw the football, as well as the best I've ever seen him look. I mean, that was the most noticeable thing.
You're right. Look at him in this video. I mean, like that's a kid. 15 pounds since we saw him last
20.
summer. Yeah, I mean,
we need to Eddie get the video from last year.
Yeah, a little
side by side because I do think it would be pretty noticeable.
Yeah, and the thing about guys, if we didn't know he was there, you'd never know. Like, he is so low key. Like, there's no rah and trying to make sure, the quarterback, I want the attention on me. He's just.
Well, he's taking every rep, too.
Yeah.
He's not sitting around. Like, you see some guys go through reps, and then it's like, all right, I think I'm kind of good on this.
Yeah. He's also like, he's that guy, he's there because you'll see the ball thrown, and maybe you not see who threw it, and you're like, oh, I wonder who threw that. And it's like, oh, yeah, that was Kevin
I think
Sperry.
This is the one that I've already gained some fame for on Twitter.
Yeah.
That if you can't see me, but in the other video, I am literally just shaking my head. That he made some throw. Look at that. I mean, that's just perfect. And that's to a 2026 receiver that had a really nice day. Osade Brown, I think is his last name. I'm going to blank on his first name right this moment. But there are again with Kevin Sperry, I just thought he was so consistent. I don't know. He just looked as comfortable as I've ever seen him, and you don't want to say command in a camp, but he kind of looked like
he has a presence. He has like a little bit of a presence about him. I think he's more comfortable with where he was. It will be interesting just in terms of like going into his senior year. He's obviously made the move back down to Texas, down to Denton Geyer. Probably going to throw the ball a little bit more. I think we know that with Geyer's offense compared to Carl Albert.
Sorry, Dunno. No offense.
I think that they're fine winning state championships, keeping the ball on the ground. But at the same time, from a development standpoint, do you think that this is a kind of a big summer for him to take that next step as a passer?
I do. And, I think I've had some conversations with people where it's kind of like, well, why isn't he ranked higher? Why isn't that happening? And I think the Elite 11 is a great opportunity because it's one of those few times when a guy is like for like. You're making the same throws to the same receivers in the same setting. Like it really is apples to apples because it's so hard when you watch him at Carl Albert and you're like, well, yeah, he was 14 for 17, but he's throwing to better athletes than anybody. The gap between his athletes and the others is a lot different than, say, a kid playing in the Catholic League, where he's throwing for Mater Dei against Bosco, which is a very different thing. So it's tough to gauge those things. So I think this is a chance for him to make a real move. And I'm super interested to see what that looks like for him. Because there are times I see him where I'm like, he's a top 100 guy in the country. There's no doubt. And there's other times where he's not bad. I've never seen Kevin Sperry be bad. But you're just kind of like, okay, like it's fine. It's good. It doesn't overwhelm me.
Yeah.
So I think that's really going to be the story at Elite.
And I'm looking at the on-3 rankings for quarterbacks. I mean, he is ranked 15th in the country, 18th in the industry rankings. So, I mean, it wouldn't – I don't think it'd surprise any of us if he got into that top 10 of quarterbacks ranked.
I guess there's a little bit of irony there, too, that Jackson Arnold was kind of in that same spot. And then, obviously, he went on, won the Elite 11, and the rest was kind of history.
Yeah, I mean, people forget when Jackson committed – he was like the 130, 140 player. Like nobody was like, oh, he's a 5-star. He's going to be the future of some program. He was just kind of like, oh, he's a good player. And then he took off, had the great Elite 11, went nuts his senior year, and the rest is kind of history.
Denton Gyers treating Oklahoma well, obviously, with Jackson Arnold, Peyton Bowen, Kevin Sperry, as well as Zane Rowe, 2027 defensive end, defensive line commit. Yeah. In the only commit, I think, in the 2027 class. He was back up in Norman on Thursday morning. He was not even probably, he was the best defensive lineman there from a defensive line group that probably wasn't as much as what they're expecting. But Zane Rowe, I think you turn on the tape, it's obvious what Oklahoma likes.
Absolutely. And guys, to start off with, I would say I think being there says a lot about Zane Rowe because, I mean, obviously he's committed. He's one of the top players in the country at his position in that class. Like, he could just mail it in, and it would be okay. No one's going to be mad. No one's going to throw a fit about it. But he came there. He wanted to work. And I think that answers the question because I've had a lot of people say, well, why would he commit so early, Josh? Like, why would he do that? He could wait as long as he wanted to. OU's going to wait for him, all those things. But being there, I think he's just bought into OU. I think he believes kind of in what they're doing. He loves Miguel Chavis. Like, all that makes sense. But to get to what we saw yesterday, again, this is a freshman in high school you're looking at. Like, look at this kid. Like, it's unbelievable. And usually when you see a guy like that, and, maybe they'll be big in the upper body, well, their legs are real lean. Like, he's just going to be a big human being. Like, there's no question about it to me. And I think he's kind of, as we see Brent and Todd Bates move to more of what we saw at Clemson, where their DNs are 6'5" and 275 pounds, he's that kind of guy. He'll be that guy in college that's 260-plus pounds, but still has all that burst, all that athleticism. And when you watch his length, I mean, guys, he's going against Felix Ojo who is one of the longest offensive tackles you're going to see. And he just does. I mean, he gets beat. I'm not saying he doesn't. But you still see all the physical traits that you need to be an elite pass rusher. And, again, that's Miguel Chavis can see it too. Like, he's still just a huge work in progress. But again, that young, do you have the traits? And he's got them like few guys do.
I think he was the best looking athlete out there.
Yeah.
He just stands out. Like, when we go to these things, like, you can just pick him out. And obviously we knew who Zane was before, but you just watch him go through even just bag drills, and you're like, this guy's a dude. And he's just got the perfect frame for what they're looking for. So, you can tell he's still a little bit raw in terms of like technique and stuff, but like you said, he's like 15 years old.
Yeah. Well, because you could see it on that clip, like with Felix Ojo, in a year from now, he's going to spin back inside. He's going to use all that motion that Ojo's got going outside. He's going to spin back inside of him. The quarterback's meat. Like, I mean, that's just, he doesn't know those things yet. He's not comfortable with those things yet because guys, he was coming out of junior high a year ago. So there is still so much in front of him. And again, I think because it's so early, some OU fans don't understand how special he could be and what a big commitment that could look like in a couple years.
It's going to be fun to watch him over the next couple of years. Going to probably be wearing out I-35 over the next, couple months here with Kevin Sperry back
Eddie, you'll
down.
take all the Denton commitments you can get, man. That's an easy one.
It really is an easy drive. Made that drive multiple times for Jackson Arnold and Peyton Bowen. Let's move along to another guy that held an offer coming into camp, Katoa, my guy from Euless Trinity. He's just a mountain of a person.
Kind of like we need to start playing a game with you guys, and Toa would have been the perfect person to do it. Just walk in the building and be like, see if you can spot Toa Katoa for me. And I think it would have taken you about 3 seconds. He is just a mountain of a guy. Forget the giant, just badass tattoo on his arm.
That is a sick tattoo for a kid that's going into
crazy.
his junior season.
Absolutely. I'm like, how's a teacher going to tell him anything? No, just please don't be mean. But yeah. This is the stuff. He's a guard. I mean, you can look at him. He's about 6'3". Guys, we heard measurements of him at some previous camps at 380 pounds. I don't know if I believe that, but if you told me he's 350, 360, I can buy that all day.
He's listed as 370 on 3.
Yeah, he is an enormous individual. There's no question about it.
For some reason, I can't 370 seems like a lot.
Yes.
And he carries that extremely well.
That's what I'm like. I don't
understand how he weighed that much.
Imagine him at 340, 330. How, just he's built. And look at the thing for me was his calves and his feet. Look how big his feet are.
Well, but look at his okay, and this is super scouting, bull, but look at his ankles.
Yeah.
They're not big, blocky ankles. He has ankles. At 370 pounds, that's insane.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm talking about. So he played a lot of tackle yesterday at camp. But when you watch him, he's a guard. That's where he fits. But he can slide his feet. He can move. He was dealing. He went against Rowe a couple times and did fine. And went against the big kid from Germany that we talked about earlier. He moves exceedingly well for a guy with his size. So you move him to a pulling guard. And again, he's going to have to change his body a little bit. We're not saying he's where he needs to be, but it's not as bad as you would think when you hear 370 pounds and you get him in a weight program with, any of these major programs. He's got a chance to just be an absolute monster.
My favorite part about watching him was watching Bill watch him.
Yeah.
And he just is in love with the guy. He was just constantly giggling to himself about him.
Had little heart emojis in his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at him. He's smiling.
Yeah, you can. That's a Bill Beatonbow smile.
You don't see that very often.
Look at him
Yeah,
smile.
that's a moment. What a moment.
I hadn't even noticed it. That's beautiful.
yeah.
He's in love with it.
That was after every rep. He's just
he was just throwing kids.
Yeah.
And by kids, I mean large adults.
that's
Yes.
a 22-year-old man
Right.
that he just went against.
Yes.
Yeah.
That clearly
Unbelievable.
lives in the weight room.
Yeah.
Because for those, I know we talked about it. The Hofkin kid showed up at 6'7", 258.
That's crazy.
He's an enormous human being.
Yeah.
And Katoa, like you said, just kind of threw him out of the club.
It's early.
Yeah.
But being a Euless Trinity guy, it would seem those guys usually stay pretty local. OU, Texas, probably. Would that be an early, easy to say for him?
I think you obviously, and I won't claim to know what his religious background is, but BYU, Utah, you have to look out with the whole Mormon connection. But at the same time, I think Oklahoma has made some early inroads with him. He's already been up, I think, 3 times now. So he's come up. I spoke to him briefly at the Dallas Under Armour, and we've talked since then. And you can tell, I wouldn't say it's so much Bill Beatonbow's track record for him, just as kind of who Bill Beatonbow is. That those kids don't grow up in, soft environments and that kind of that. They are tough from early on. And I think Bill Beatonbow, I think those guys connect with him.
Long way to go for and Katoa. I just love the name. I can't pronounce the first name. Not even going to try. I could probably try, but it wouldn't go well. He is a mountain of a person. I would never. If he told me to say his first name, I would probably try.
Yes,
because I wouldn't want to say no to him.
Yes, you're not talking
very
about
intimidating high schooler, junior in high school. He looked incredible on Thursday morning. In the afternoon session, it was really good. Obviously, we saw Kevin Sperry throwing the rock around, but Trent Yancey was one of the wide receivers that really kind of jumped off the page. Arlington Lamar,
a 2027 guy. And that was the thing where he has been offered, and guys, I'll fully own it. I kind of had forgotten about it. We were talking with a few other reporters, and I was like, that's right.
Sure.
I had kind of missed it, but there's no question. I mean, that guy is one of the better sophomore receivers I've seen at an OU camp in a while. He was absolutely dominant. You see the burst there, how easy it is. You can't see it, but I was standing right next to Eddie as he shot that video. Emmett Jones just like, yes, yeah. Like you can hear him like, yep, that's exactly what I want to see. So this is a guy, again, Dallas area guy. We know Emmett Jones's connections there. I think Oklahoma will absolutely be a contender in this recruitment. But when you watch him from just a playing standpoint, his feet, his ability out of breaks, like he is very advanced.
It's smooth.
With his yes.
Natural.
Yes. And I guess Margin Hooks, we got to give him a little love because he definitely did in a video with Eddie at the end of camp yesterday. But he is, I don't think I could have been more impressed with just how easy it all looked for him.
That was pretty. He was really good. Let's stay in the wide receiver room. I think that was the moment that he gave the Margin Hooks shout out. We'll stay in the wide receiver room, though, and a little bit of a backstory because the first session was ending and somebody showed up with Joe John Finley. It was like, okay, who's this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Turns out it was Zachary Turner from Duncanville.
Yep.
Another just really, really impressive afternoon.
Yeah, and one of those hybrid guys that, we know, frankly, Lincoln Riley used a lot. Like we saw these kind of guys a lot. We haven't seen this group use it as much, but I think it's interesting because they have made him a focus. Like I think he's been up 4 times since the spring now. I mean, he's been up a lot. So, but yeah, huge catch radius. I mean, like you can see it, big hands. He caught everything. There wasn't any double catches. And as I say that, he'll probably, okay.
We would never put a dropped ball in the highlight package. Okay, we take care of these kids.
But yeah, again, like that kid's 6'2", 200, and just ending his sophomore year of high school, heading into his junior year. And he changes directions really easy. What's going to be intriguing with him is how his body develops. Like, is he going to become kind of – because he's – like I said, he's about 6'2". You could see him growing to 6'3", maybe, but I don't think he's ever going to be a traditional inline tight end. Like, at best, he's a flex, and maybe he's an H-back, maybe he's that. Or maybe he's just a kind of a bigger outside receiver, maybe like a Jordan Smallwood type of player. And I think he maybe has a little more upside than Jordan Smallwood, but just kind of giving people a body example of a bigger outside guy.
He was another guy. I said earlier, Zane Rowe is the best athlete there. I think Turner was number 2. I mean, he was pretty dominant. And I thought it was interesting that he worked with the tight end group some, he worked with the wide receiver group, and then he was out there playing some DB too, but just smooth again. I mean, he was pretty dominant in the one-on-ones.
Anytime you come out of Duncanville, I think you get a little bit of attention because it's one of the premier programs in the state of Texas. I would imagine, is going to be a big player in thetheir offense moving forward over the next couple of years.
I mean, and they're always very run dominant. Yeah. But I mean, like, you're not going to not use a guy like that. And the problem's going to be for him is they also have DeCorian Moore, the number 1 receiver in the country, who's an absolute freak of his own. So they are maybe we're just going to see Duncanville aired out in a way that we haven't seen in years past. But again, with him, I really like where Oklahoma is. I think they've done a really good job prioritizing him early on. And guys, I mean, we all noticed it. Like when he walked in, Joe John Finley came over, made a priority of him.
He was getting the red carpet treatment.
Yeah, 100%. Like as I was leaving there, him and mom and whatever family was with him, they were in the golf cart. They were headed off. They did not have to walk back across campus. So they've made him a big part of what they're doing.
I would have gotten the exact opposite attention as a camper. I would have been part of the bigger group.
Yeah.
I'm not getting the tour, not getting all of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm definitely, as we were checking one of the guys' Twitter followers yesterday, I'm the guy with no coaches following me. Yeah, absolutely true.
100%.
So, yeah.
I get the +1 on the official visit, that type of stuff. Another offensive lineman, we saw him earlier going against Zane Rowe. Felix Ojo, a name that I think has been rather familiar for Oklahoma fans. A really good performance nonetheless. He's freaky.
Yeah, again, we saw him. Another guy we saw at Dallas Under Armour along with Toa Katoa, and there was you didn't know as much because you didn't see him, you didn't get to watch him a lot, but he went a lot of reps yesterday. They clearly wanted to size him up. Very different player than Toa Katoa. This is all length and athleticism and projection. But again, you watch him go against some of these guys when they try to turn the corner on him, even some of the smaller, kind of quicker pass rushers, they didn't have a prayer because his wingspan's got to be close to 7 feet.
Massive.
I mean, and look at his legs. Like each stride he takes, it's going to be 2 of yours. Like he's going to be really, really hard to get around. Now, he doesn't know what he's doing yet. He's still very, very raw. But watching him go against, some good ends and dealing with them when he's still learning so much, I thought was super impressive. And this is him against Zane Rowe right there.
He just looks like a future left tackle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you draw it up as. I mean, these are the guys that you want to get into your program. And I know people will say, oh, he's so lean, and he is. Remember, he's just going into his junior year of high school. By the time he hits a college program, I bet he's put on 30 more pounds. And then you get him to college, and he's maybe 285, 290. Well, you're only 20, 30 pounds away from being where you need to be to play in the SEC. And you still have all that length. You hope you maintain that athleticism. And then you're talking about a guy that has the physical skill set to be an elite player if you can get him to that place.
He's the type of guy that I think like Jerry Schmidt like dreams about.
Yes.
You know, like building up and developing in the weight room.
Could be interesting.
They're just going to show him like Lane Johnson pictures.
Yeah.
Like this was him, and then this is him now.
And this is what you have to eat.
Exactly. Yes.
and double that. You got to eat all of this. The quarterback position obviously was led by Kevin Sperry on Thursday during the afternoon session, but they did have this is something that we had talked about on the Unofficial 40, just in terms of Oklahoma's quarterback situation in 2026 is starting to become rather interesting. Yep. Darion Coleman was in on Thursday out of Lakeland, Florida, Jones High School.
Yep.
What'd you think about him? I know that Jaden O'Neal's coming in next week, and there's a lot of buzz around his interest or possible maybe even commitment in the near future to Oklahoma. What'd you think about Darion Coleman on Thursday?
I liked him. And to be fair, this is always one of the tough things for kind of run-pass, dual-threat guys like Darion Coleman. He doesn't get to show one of these huge aspects of his game. Because, we know, like this
They're
is
not pulling down and running during 7-on-7 drills.
And he's going to be lethal if they do. Because, he's that sort of athlete. He is very, very dangerous with his feet. But I thought on the day he showed, he's not a guy that we're like, well, that's just all bad. Like, he's got some mechanical stuff. You kind of wonder, like, okay, maybe they could work with him a little bit, keeping the elbow in a little bit different positions. And that's technical stuff. And they may not even care. Does the ball get where it needs to go? And I thought on the day he delivered it pretty well. I thought one of the tough looks for him was being next to Sperry. Yeah. Because you would see a throw Sperry made, and you'd see something Coleman did. And if Kevin's not there, you probably are not thinking about, you're not thinking about it. But then you'd watch Coleman make it, and you're like, well, that's pretty good, but it's not what Sperry did 2 throws ago. Like that one right there, it was almost the same throw as the one we were just talking about with Sperry, and it's a perfectly fine throw. The kid makes a great catch, but did he hit him perfectly in stride and just land it in the basket? No, and Sperry did. So again, I wonder how much of it's just relative in my mind. But what I kind of thought, and as you led me in with Jaden O'Neal, I kind of thought Coleman had to have a huge day. Yeah. I kind of thought he had to really set the world on fire. And I thought he was good. I don't know that he did what I thought he needed to do to maybe become the guy OU's going to take in 2026. I think that may end up as Jaden O'Neal.
He just wasn't, like you said, he was good, but I worry about his size. He's listed at 5'11", 160.
Yeah.
For reference, Kevin Sperry's 6'1", 200.
Yeah.
So it's just he's not very big. And like you said, we didn't get to see some of his athleticism in terms of running, but the throwing motion also worries me a little bit, just because it's the first time I was like, oh, that's different, the way it comes out of his hands. So I'm interested to see what they do, because Kevin Sperry was committed March 2023, and they haven't really had to worry about that. And now all of a sudden you have Seth Littrell. What's he looking for in the type of quarterback that he's looking for versus what Jeff Lebby was looking at? So I think we're going to kind of know these next couple of weeks with Jaden O'Neal coming next week. So it's going to be intriguing to watch. And I'm excited to see, is O'Neal coming Thursday?
Yeah. He's going to camp. So. Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun. We'll be able to
kind of the same deal. We can do
fortunately
it side
for
by side.
us, unfortunate for them, we're gonna basically decide on who Oklahoma needs to take.
Yeah.
Off of an hour and a half throwing session.
Do you think Seth Littrell's gonna send us flowers for making that decision for him?
I think he should probably just sit in on the program next week, and we'll just break it all down.
Yeah, we can just
open
in
studio.
And they're different guys too. Again,
yes.
You don't want to just say size, but
sure.
Jaden O'Neal's 6'3", 200. He's a much bigger guy.
Yeah, and is I would say he and Sperry are kind of similar athletically, very capable runners. Absolutely can pick up yardage. They're not Coleman.
Sure.
So, and that weighs in. But also that kind of plays into what George is talking about. If running's going to be a big part of your game in the SEC at 185 pounds, 190,
Might be tough.
That's dangerous. Man, you're playing with fire a little bit there.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with the quarterback. Obviously, Jaden O'Neal will be camping, as we said, next Thursday. Back to David Hofkin, just because it's maybe the most interesting story that I can remember at a camp where a guy that comes in with a group that, like, not necessarily with a high school.
That's great.
He's 22
Great
years
photograph.
old. It's just, it's insane to me that that's how that worked. And a little bit of a backstory. You mentioned he camped at a satellite camp about a week ago with Nebraska, got committed immediately, it sounds like.
Yeah, I talked to some people with this group, and they are in the United States for 12 days, and they're just camping all over the place.
It's literally like they're taking him around to these job interviews.
Yeah. I mean, and I think he was one of 2 or 3 guys that picked up offers. So you're like, well, maybe it was worth it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because that might have changed that kid's life.
Sure.
But yeah, is 22 years old. And I mean, like, look at him next to Miguel Chavis. I mean, like, we know Miguel is a big guy. And he was clearly larger, both in frame and, I mean, he's just a big human being. And when we first walked out, you were like, what is he doing at offensive tackle? He kept working at tackle. And you were like, this guy's like 5% body fat. Like, how is that going to work? And as soon as they moved him over to defensive end, you're like, okay, now this could work. This is interesting. And, I talked to some folks at Nebraska, and there was immediately like, well, are they going to offer him? I don't think that's going to come to pass, because for those that maybe haven't picked up on it, he is a 2024 prospect. He is eligible to play college football next year.
He would be a freshman at Nebraska
this upcoming
probably
season.
like
Yes.
as he finishes his official visits or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, like, is
Like,
he
would he
even
go
going to
through-
go back to Europe, or is he just
Yeah.
going to head to Nebraska?
Would he go through summer conditioning? That type
That's
of thing?
I mean, like, he
Crazy.
can. Like, that's where that's at.
Incredible.
So, like, that's kind of the thing where, people say, well, Oklahoma hadn't offered. Let's see. Like, let's see what they think the numbers are going to look like, if they think he's interesting enough to maybe take a flyer. But that's how immediate that is for Oklahoma. They've got to make that choice now. Like, there's no, like, oh, we'll see how he develops next year. Like, it's now or never, or, now or portal. So we'll kind of have to see. But, again, I thought he was interesting. Do I think that's a guy that OU's got to go get? I don't know that I'm there. But, I mean, like George and I were talking about yesterday, he's a guy that is going to be like 25 as a college senior. Like, at 25-year-old, like, I'm kind of interested in what that kid's going to be.
He would be
He's
old
gonna
on.
be-
He would be old on the BYU roster.
Oh yeah, I mean,
all
he-
things considered.
Yeah.
he'd be old on OU's roster.
He'd be the oldest.
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
he?
mean, it's crazy. I was joking yesterday that we're going to look up in like 3 years. I think OU plays Nebraska in a few years, and he's going to be like 26 and an All-American or something crazy. And we're like, yeah, we saw him at camp when he was 22.
25-year-old.
When he was
married
just
to
a
some
young
girl
little
from Omaha.
22-year-old.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. 22 years old. I've never. He might be the oldest camper in the history of Brent Venables football camp.
I'm pretty sure. Because,
Has to be.
I mean, guys, there's never a senior there.
No.
There's no reason
No.
for a senior
That's
to
true.
be there.
That's true.
So, like, for him to be 3 years older than any of them is wild.
Unbelievable. It'll be interesting to see what happens, though. Because all things considered, I did think he was pretty impressive.
Again, if OU offered, I'm not like, that's insane. That's
Yeah.
the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I just don't know if they could make it on such limited information.
And at a position that you would think is defensive end, where Oklahoma seems to be pretty good right now,
Yeah.
just numbers-wise.
Absolutely.
Last but not least, we talked a little bit about him about a week ago, I think, when you were making the spring tour, Josh. But Carter Langendorfer from Owasso, a 2026 safety, he was one of the better defensive backs in the group yesterday.
Absolutely. A guy that, like you said, I noticed him first. He picked up an Iowa State offer, I think, back in April. And he kind of got on everybody's radar at that point. But watching him work, I mean, again, like changing direction there. That receiver gave a lot of people trouble yesterday. So watching him work, and guys, this is, what would you say, 6'1", 190? I mean, he's a big kid.
Every bit of 6'1", yeah.
Yeah. And so, the thing I liked is he could handle some man stuff. If he wanted to play off, he could do that. And I thought he really, really took well to everything Brandon Hall, because we were kind of standing there by Brandon Hall, who was just kind of in front of us on the practice field watching his safeties go. You could see him take from one rep what Brandon Hall would instruct him on, and he would kind of work on it the next. And he looked really good, and he's a good athlete, plays for Owasso. Again, an offer didn't happen, and frankly, I'm a little surprised it didn't with the performance he put on yesterday. But if you told me by week 4 or 5 of the season he has no U offer, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Kind of remind me a little bit of he could be related somehow to Jacoby Johnson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And initially, I thought it might be one of his younger brothers.
Yeah. He is trying to think of a good comp for him because I don't know that there's somebody quite like – because I thought he looked more like he's a big guy, so you want to put him in the box kind of instinctively. But just watching him, I thought he looked really good as like a center fielder. Like
sure.
he just looked very natural tracking the ball. That one where he flipped around his hips a couple times. A lot of guys can't do that. And so I thought he was I thought his ball skills were really good. And I know talking to him a little bit, I think Oklahoma kind of gave him the impression they want to watch a little bit of his junior tape, want to see him maybe be a little more physical on tape. And I think if maybe he can answer those questions, I think Oklahoma would feel pretty comfortable.
Somebody that did get an offer on Thursday was Bryson Brown, a teammate of Carter at Owasso.
Yeah.
That's going to be a pretty good secondary, I would imagine, for the Rams coming up over the next couple.
Yeah, it's weird how often we seem to come back to these same teams
right.
that are just very talented.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Bryson Brown, the thing with him was, he picked up a Penn State offer, and there was some question around the Tulsa area, like, is that for real? Because he's 27, he's very young, hadn't played a lot. And there were some just, let's see how real he is. Well, I know he went up to Penn State. They were pretty impressed with how he tested. And then he came down to Oklahoma, and I have to admit a lot of my focus was Carter because I knew Carter was going to be there, and I didn't know about Bryson until a little later in the day. And what I saw, he's a guy that I think turns really naturally, can run with guys. I'd love to see him just open up and run. That's really my one question is, like, can he run vertically with an elite speed guy? Like, I'd love to have seen him match up with Yancey and just see, can he go vertically with Yancey? And if he could have, then, hey, I really don't have any other thing I'm worried about with him because he is very natural. He gets his hand. I thought, though, I bet you if I was going to guess the thing Jay Valai loved the most, he competed until the end of it. Like I saw him knock out multiple balls that were caught, and he just ripped it at the end. And we know Oklahoma loves that stuff.
I'm trying to think, when was the last time Penn State came in and made an offer, like an early offer to somebody to the state of Oklahoma?
And he camped there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, now he was offered before he camped. So,
really?
Your point holds. But it was kind of, I think it was one of those things where, like, maybe they were trying to get him up there to camp. Because I know, talking to our Penn State guys, it sounds like they've just been blanketing offers. And that's kind of what fed how real is this? But like I said, I talked to some people up there after the camp, and Penn State seemed pretty pleased with him. And then, I was talking to Bryson last night, and he goes, I'm so sorry. We changed plans. He was supposed to be there at BOU in a couple weeks. And Valai reached out and was like, hey, man, we'd really like to have you here on the 6th if you could. And so Bryson kind of moved some stuff around and made it work. Now, I will say, people will ask, 2027 Oklahoma kid, he got offered. He's actually from Arkansas. He grew up in Pine Bluff, moved to Oklahoma I think he told me 2016. So this isn't a guy that grew up, Crimson and Cream, the whole thing. So Oklahoma has some advantages being in state, but at the same time, it's not a guy that just this is his dream and, just start counting the days until he commits.
Is getting offered by Penn State kind of the same thing as an offensive lineman getting offered by Michigan? It's like, okay, I think that checks the box. We're pretty good there.
They've done a nice job with evals at DB over the years. So, yeah, I think that's a really good sign. And, again, for Jay Valai to offer him at this point, I think that says a lot. Because, again, whether he's from Arkansas or whatever, for Oklahoma to make an in-state offer, they have to know their odds go way up for that player. So you've got to be ready to take him. And we've talked about that for years, Eddie. And I think that says a lot that, okay, we'd be willing to take this guy if he was ready to go.
I think you also, too, with a coach like Valai, you just kind of trust his instincts on these things because he has done, and you could say that about a lot of these coaches, but he's done a really good job of evaluating talent at that position, I think. So when he gets that offer, even though that he stood out yesterday, but it wasn't somebody I thought Carter was the best defensive back of the group, but you're just like, okay, well, Jay Valai knows what he's doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Day 2 of Brent Venables football camp coming up on Saturday. It sounds like it's going to be another really good offensive line group as well.
Yeah, you should have another group. And I kind of have a list I'm working to confirm, but there should be, I would guess, 6 to 7 guys. I'm not expecting right now anyone that holds an offer, but I think you'll see another day where 3 or 4 guys maybe pick up offers because I know that is a group that they're pretty excited to bring in and kind of see, what pans out.
Very good. All right. For Josh, George, I'm Eddie. We will see you right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube page. breaking down a little bit more of Brent Venables football camp as we continue on over the next couple weeks. We'll talk to you next time.